I'm going to talk to you guys about comic books. Is that cool? Awesome, awesome. Because I don't have anything else prepared. So, when I was a kid, I loved comic books. Partly because they're awesome, partly because my brothers liked them, and I wasn't capable of having original thought. I was 7. And once I got into them, I loved them, except I had this problem of not being able to read them in the correct order. See, the panels sometimes are a little confusing. Sometimes there's one on top of another, a big one, and then a bunch of little ones. For me, that was hard to follow. Before I figured it out, it was a mess. There was no linear narrative. It was just stuff happening. So I was very grateful to learn how to read. But the truth is that they're amazing. And the reason they're amazing is they have these stories, and they begin somewhere, origin stories, right? So for those of you that don't know, an origin story is what makes a hero a hero. It's the beginning of their story. So for Superman, it is he comes on Earth, he already has his powers. Spider-Man, midway through his life, he gets bit by a spider. That's when he gets his powers. And Batman, he experiences a childhood trauma, and he trains the rest of his life to seek justice. And then there's me. Now, before we dive into this intimate part of my psyche, I have to explain something. When I was born, I really wanted an origin story, and I thought my origin story was going to be Superman, because I was told I was special. My mom used to say, you know, we didn't think we could have any more kids after your brothers, but we really wanted another one, and then you came along, and it was special. And it's not because she likes me better than my brothers, although, you know, verdict's still out, so. But it's because I was born female. I was born a girl, and she really wanted a daughter. So this is where I get to tell you guys that I'm transgender. But I didn't know that at the time, right? At the time, I thought I was special because I was a girl. So it became really complicated when questions started to pop up in my head that challenged that. So this game, it's called Club Penguin. Club Penguin is a place where you get to be a penguin, and you play games, you earn coins, you dress up your penguin, you deck out your igloo. Mine was amazing. That's neither here nor there. It's just important to me that you know that. Anyway, Club Penguin was amazing because I could express myself however I wanted. It was fantastic. And also I learned a lot. There was some, you know, the 11-year-olds were having the discourse we need to have, right? Like queer politics, consent, racial politics. But in all seriousness, the reason that this game was so important to me was because in real life I was already dressing like a boy. I was a tomboy. But that's how people saw me, a tomboy. A girl dressed as a boy. In this game, I got to tell people I was a boy. I got to be a boy. But it was also hard. Because in challenging that I might not be a girl, I was screwing up my superhero narrative. I was letting go of that origin story. I was messing my narrative up, but not just mine, my mom's. And that's a heck of a lot of pressure. So for years, I didn't say anything. I just quietly fantasized about being able to come out and be myself. And then high school came around, and I went to an all-girls high school because let's just make it more complicated. Anyway, the irony is that because even though my gender identity inside felt different than these people, we had shared experiences externally, and it actually proved to be a place that was really safe to come out for me. And so I did. And it was hard, because I was really letting go of that Superman thing in that moment. But then it occurred to me, you know who had a big transition midway through his life? Spider-Man. Spider-Man is amazing because he changes. Midway through his life, he changes. He's not born with something, he becomes it. And that's awesome. And I thought that was going to be my story. I got really excited about it. And for a while, it was. You know, I had ups and downs after high school. I wasn't always my best self. Sometimes I was more of a villain than a hero, but, you know, not things that challenged my identity. I could stick to being Spider-Man, right? I got confident. I started to make friends. I started doing stand-up comedy. I got really into myself in a good way. And then I thought, maybe I'll try dating again. I hadn't done that since high school. I hadn't done that since coming out. I'm not going to talk too much about it because it's not the point. But in trying to date someone, look, I'm small and I'm trans. Someone took advantage of that. And in an intimate way. For me, that was disheartening for a number of reasons. The reasons of being robbed of respect, of being violated, but also I'm trans, and for better or worse, I have a really complicated relationship to my masculinity. So I checked out. I stopped participating, my story halted, and everything around me kept going. Everything around me didn't stop. I started to experience the redundancy of shame, of sending my professor the same email about the same assignment, explaining once again that I didn't do it, that I wasn't coming to class. I was high all the time, which I know in Boulder isn't a bad thing, but context. And I wasn't here. So I buried myself in things. Thankfully, one of those things was comic books again, because I rediscovered Batman and his origin story. He experienced a trauma. He spent his whole life trying to get justice for his parents' murder that he witnessed. And I thought, maybe I can find the strength to make peace with what happened. Maybe I can find some justice. So I started working my ass off. I started doing everything in my power to get back on track with school. I started to get it together, and I started working hard on my career. See, I wanted to be an actor, and I started submitting myself for more roles. And then justice happened. I got a job in a movie, and a superhero movie, no less. It didn't just feel like justice, it felt like poetic justice. The only problem was, I didn't still feel like I was there. I didn't know who I was still. If I wasn't Superman because I, wasn't born with it, and wasn't Spider-Man because my strength was taken from me, and I wasn't Batman because even when I thought I found justice, it didn't feel right. I didn't even know what justice was supposed to look like for me. And I was at a loss, because it's like, what do you do when your dream comes true and you don't feel good? All this joy and gratitude for an opportunity that it presented itself, and I couldn't be present for it. So, think about your lives, right? There's stuff we'd all like to erase, right? Lots of stuff, things we've done, things other people have done. But it's complicated, because if you take that chunk out, you mess up the narrative. It's not linear, and then it just feels like things are happening. Like I talked about at the beginning. When you don't have a sense of sequence, it's confusing. You want meaning. So I didn't feel like I could erase things for a long time. I didn't know what to make of it until I started getting help. I looked for a therapist. I started seeking the support of my friends, and I learned that I am allowed to hate parts of my life. I do not have to love the ugly things to make my story pretty. And finally, I taught myself once again how to read my panels out of order. Thank you.